Welcome to Rev Fast, Speakeasy. Welcome, Brian Barr. How are you?
I'm good, buddy, man. It's good to see you. This is a killer idea that we've got going on here, man. Rev Fast. You got to let's tell the folks about Rev Fast.
Well, Rev Fast is my 20 years of passion of cars and motorcycles and watercraft and now off-road. Jeeps and cars and hot rods. I got hurt on a motorcycle with a deer, so yeah, maybe not motorcycles right now, but I'd love to talk to people more about motorcycles. But
yeah, so you put it up on a lift, it's out of reach.
Yeah, we put it up on the shelf so we can look at it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's what RevFast is our car care product line, clothing, and talking about cars. And we built this RevFast Speakeasy so we can sit and talk to good-looking fellas like you and talk about cars and drink cars and drink bourbon and talk
drink
cars.
Bourbon or scotch.
Right.
It's all good.
That's what I'm drinking. What you drinking?
A little Jim Beam tonight. You know my background. I got a long history with that brand.
So how did you get affiliated with Jim Beam? Like, it was in your NASCAR days, or?
Well, it's when for a long time I was with Seagram Distillers. And when I got out of Seagram Distillers and I got into motorsports, ended up in the motorsports world, because of my background, I ended up in an agency that had Jim Beam as a client. And made some great relationships with that. I mean, like you see some of this stuff here, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it was a lot of fun bringing those guys into NASCAR with Robbie Gordon and into IndyCar with Dan Weldon and Andretti Green Motorsports. In 2005, we won the IndyCar.
Oh, wow.
We won the Indy 500. It was unbelievable. Kid from Buffalo, New York, we're winning an IndyCar race. I'm like, blew my mind.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, every time me and you are together, we're always talking about car shows around here and classic cars and hot rods and all that good stuff. So we never really talk about maybe my past or your past.
Yeah. Well, this bottle of Jim Beam Black right here, and I'm sipping on a little Jim Beam Black right now. So they changed it. They took the age claim off. Get why. But anyway, that bottle was the bottle that we drank in Victory Lane when Dan won in 2005.
So Dan Weldon actually drank from this bottle with you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, we all cracked the top. Everybody in the photo here. Right. It was such an emotional high. The highlight of my career, of everything that I've done and the coolness in the car world, that was just the neatest thing.
Yeah. That's got to be neat. So been in Victory Lane with that's one of the biggest wins of any driver, but to just be there as a brand associate and been right in the background.
Yeah. I like to take credit. It's not really true, but I like to take credit that I introduced him to his wife, Susie, because she was our PR person on the business, and I'm still in touch with her and the kids are racing now in F4 and they're doing great. And it's just, it's about like motorsports and cars, as you know, you bring just cool people together. The cars do it, right? That's something to talk about, like we're talking about tonight.
Right.
But we're going to end up meeting a lot of cool people doing this.
Yes, for sure. And me and you, so how did we meet? I'm trying to think. I mean, it was in the car scene, but how?
I think it was Mark Correa.
Mark Correa. Oh,
right. Should we plug him?
Mark Correa, motorcartrader.com.
There you go. If you need a Jaguar, that's the guy to go to. And I'm in the business, right?
But that's all he sells is Jaguars.
Yeah.
Maybe once in a while some other
Austin Healey or something.
Yeah. I've cleaned a lot of cars and helped him do a lot of stuff.
But that's how we met, over at your old shop.
Yeah.
And I was working for Streetside then, which I'm again, I left and went back, and I'm the inventory manager over there now.
So Mark, if you're listening to this, we need to have you on the podcast.
Maybe you should sponsor it.
Yeah, he's got plenty of money. Yeah, we should do that. Yeah, Mark, you're up.
He's cringing right now.
Yeah, right. So, but I remember, so we sort of, got together and talked about stuff, and then we were literally sitting on a picnic table one night. I've told this story 100 times.
I remember.
And I always tell it exactly the same.
At a brewery.
And I'm not a big beer drinker, but I went and had a beer. We tried to make me like beer, but we were sitting there drinking a beer, and we were talking about how we need to create Cars and Coffee, but with beer.
Right.
And we just kept looking at, I don't know, different names, and we went on GoDaddy and started kicking off names and Hot Rods and Hops.
Stuck.
And I think we bought a domain that night, and the rest is history. And that was in 2017.
Yes. Oof, that's a minute ago.
That's a long time ago.
7 years ago. Was that the same night that we met that couple that were Robert Yates?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. So they had, what did they travel? They traveled. They were coming here, or they had worked with him. What was
They were fans, but they had traveled through town, and we got talking to them.
So they were just here going to race shops and looking around, and they just happened to stop there and get a beer. And,
And then you blew their mind and probably made their year when we went into Robert's old.
I took him. Yeah, he's passed away now, but
oh man, what a great guy.
But I don't think he knew that I took some fans through his man cave and showed them all the trophies and pictures and everything. But
well, maybe Doug will call, and we should have Doug on.
Yeah, we should have Doug on. In fact, I'm gonna have Doug's Chrome Cobra here next week. So
are you?
That would be a good one to have.
Doug's a good guy.
But yeah, I remember that. That was a lot of fun, and I still have the last $100 bill that Robert Yates gave me hung on the wall up there.
Oh wow, for detailing cars.
Yeah, just I felt like when he paid me that time, this will either be the last time, or I'm gonna hold on to it until I get another one. And I don't have enough money to frame $100 bills, but that's a cool piece hanging on the wall. Just he was a good customer and a good friend, and introduced me to a lot of the racing community, a lot of people. So definitely somebody I miss a lot. I mean, you would have never knew he had two nickels to rub together. I love that guy. He
super
was
humble, wonderful people. Wonderful people.
But yeah, so we created Hot Rods and Hops, and
which blew up.
I mean, October of last year, we did our 50th event.
Doesn't seem like 50.
50 free car shows. That's a lot of free car shows.
It is. It is. Well, it's exclusive. It's cool. People reach out to you to get in how many weeks in advance? I need a spot, Neal. I want to be on the inner circle.
Right. I mean, it's sort of like a VIP type deal, what we've created, and we've done it in a way that is very unique and real different that other shows do. Not just anybody can get in.
Right.
So what was the coolest car you remember at Hot Rods and Hops? What's the one that stands out, or some night or somebody was there?
You know, for me, it's always about the race cars. And it's when we did it here at the new spot, at the new shop at Apex here. Yeah. The spirit of Le Mans, the Corvette.
Oh, the Corvette of, what's his name? The car builder brought that.
Yeah, Tom Farrell brought the car, yeah. Steve Golden owns it, but that car raced.
That was a good one. So, I mean, that car, you just sort of look at it and it's got stickers on it, but people don't really know how rich of a history that car had.
Exactly. Greenwood Corvette, right.
Is that car still in town?
It's still in town, yeah. Yeah. And he's got a couple of them. He's got Spirit of Sebring as well, too. It's just, I mean, those cars are, and in that era, I'm a Porsche guy, you know that, right? So recovering Porsche-holic, right? Those cars were running against the Porsches. And at the time, as a kid in 74, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't like those things. I'm a Porsche guy, right? And then to stumble across it and now know the current owner and the history behind the car and see the car going through its restoration process, it's mind blowing.
There's a lot of cool cars in this area. I mean, people think Southern California is where the car culture is. It's in racing area, race city.
It's right here.
I mean, there's iconic cars from the car that was in the Ford versus Ferrari. That's 10 minutes from here. There's that car.
Exactly. The Le Mans winning GT40. Yeah. Revival behind us.
Yeah, it's not an iconic car. Maybe to me, but not to everybody else.
To me. Yeah. That car's got a great story.
It does. It's that car's brought a lot of people together. I mean, we probably would have never met if I had not bought that car.
True.
It's been good for the car business. It's been good for a men's ministry. Like we've done a lot with that car. That car's took me to a lot of places. So,
hey, if it weren't for you, brother, I wouldn't have gotten baptized again.
Yeah. And it didn't happen in the trunk of a Cadillac, but it big enough to do.
It was big enough to, but it wasn't. But I mean, just the cars, the people, the community. It's a good place.
I love bringing people together. So that's what Rev Fast is, and that's what Hot Rods and Hops has always been, and we've enjoyed doing that.
And you keep expanding Rev Fast.
Well, it's like I said, it's a passion, and we just got to keep going with it, do something with it. So
you're limitless in your vision for stuff.
Well, sometimes that's drinking will make you think about doing wild shows and stuff. So we'll talk about the Jeep events on another episode. But yeah. Tell me about your Porsche background. Like, didn't you have some kind of fancy Porsche? What was that?
God, for years, I raced a 3-liter RSR in vintage, HSR, CVRA, a bunch of different places. Built the car bought the car and then evolved it. But when I built that car and bought it from the gent, for nothing, for $20,000 back in the 90s, it was a real short wheelbase 911. And go to any one of the websites right now, folks, and Google what a 66 short wheelbase 911 is worth, and it'll make you sick. Because I cut it up and made it a 74 RSR clone.
So the car if it had not been a race car and it would not have been cut up, roll bar, everything taken out of it, it would be worth a lot more than it would be as a race car.
$180,000, $200,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I thought I killed it when I sold it for $60,000. Great car, fast car, ran it, and PCA the car either was on the podium or it broke, which is fine. I'm hard on equipment, just how I drive. You've ridden with me.
Yeah. What do you drive now? What's your daily driver now?
I'm just a boring station wagon.
Boring. I like station wagons. What kind of station wagon?
Just a boring Mercedes. It's brown Mercedes station wagon. It's like an E63 S wagon.
Oh, so it's one of the fast ones.
Yeah, it's 600 horsepower.
Oh, so it's a quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wagons are meant to haul stuff. That one hauls ass.
Yeah.
And my skateboard, which that's my signature when I'm at car shows. I ride around that longboard.
Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna kill yourself one day, like I did on the motorcycle, but
I broke both wrists. Worst things have happened.
I like a wagon. So
they're practical, they're fun. So that one's kind of a sleeper.
What's the one car you let get away? Is it the race car or what? What's the one car that you wish you had back?
Probably the race car, but from the street car, it's that Datsun 240Z.
Yeah.
Remember that lime green one?
No, I don't. Did you have that since I've known you?
Mm-hmm.
Lime green.
Yeah, I bought it off a buddy locally. It was just sitting over at his place the other side of town, Tom.
Yeah.
And got it up and running and kind of made it my own. And somebody said, well, were you going to sell that? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, would you take this for it? And I'm like, yep. And I shouldn't have done it. It was a 72 240Z.
I don't remember that car. I remember the Porsche. I remember the red Porsche you had.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, the 944 Turbo, yeah.
Yeah.
The Z car, when I was in high school in 79, I bought...
Now he's telling his age here.
If people do math that quick, thank you. I bought that car in 79 with my paper route money and my dad on a match. It's a great story. He told my mom he had found a sensible 6-cylinder hatchback for me to drive. It's my very first car. And it was this lime green Datsun 240Z. And it was a rust bucket. It was a toad, just terrible car. Fun, but just like, kids have, right? I was living in Western New York, right? So salt was the enemy. If you listened really carefully, you could hear that car rust. So bought that car, had a great time with it. It finally rusted apart, bought something else when I was in college, which is another interesting sidetrack story. But I always missed that car. So when I had the opportunity to find another one and buy it, I really, really liked it. And I shouldn't have let it go. I'd still have that car today.
Was that the same year models that like Mike that has all the cars, him and his wife? So is that type of body style? Yeah, those are a pretty cool cars.
Yeah, definitely. What was your first car?
Well, my first car, and I'm a lot younger, so my first car was a 93 Ford Splash. Ford Ranger. Yeah.
In 93, I had a new Ford Taurus as my company car at Seagram Distillers.
Yeah. So
Ford Splash, huh?
Yeah, that was a cool little car. I didn't keep it very long. And, I didn't really get into the car thing until, I don't know, like later on in life. I mean, I got married in 04 and my father-in-law, he's a big car guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I should have his car here tonight, but I rode off in my wedding in a 72 Cutlass convertible.
Oh, the red one.
Yeah, red, white stripe. Yep. And, it's got like a IROC motor in it, so it, it runs really good. And I mean, that was before I sort of got into all this and had a car. Back in the day when I had my shop in Concord, I worked on everybody else's cars. I didn't have no money, and until I sold the business and moved up here, really. But I never really had a car until the Cadillac, I guess. I mean, I've bought and sold some other cars. My favorite car probably would be the No Shine, the 54.
I was going to say, you had something before that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that, and then I'm thinking about No Shine. I miss that car.
That was a 53?
54.
54.
54. Great patina.
Beautiful that car was spot on.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I wish I could buy that car back. I mean,
and that's how, I remember when you had that car, that's how we met the dude over in Concord with the shop.
Dan.
Dan, yeah. That's how I met Dan. That's how I met Dan, was through No Shine.
Yeah, Dan's blew up. He's he's partnered with Marcus Smith, and he's doing big things. He's bringing in all those Toyota Land Cruisers from California, redoing them, TLC or something. We need to have him on. That's a good one.
Those things are hot, man.
Yeah.
The Land Cruisers are hot. We're selling the heck out of them.
Yeah.
They're cool. I mean, they're not fast.
Forget about Dan. I need to call Dan sometimes. I love Dan.
Yeah.
Dan started the business same time I did. He was the same designer for the same business cards, the same shirts and everything.
And he had he was in that old gas station or that old building.
Yeah. And he's done well. I'm still up here washing cars and drinking bourbon.
I think you're doing okay.
I forget about all this stuff sometimes until we sit down and talk about it.
I'm just a used car salesman.
Yeah. Is that what you're doing now? What do you do? You're
at Summit Street Side right now. I'm the inventory manager over there amongst everything else I got going on in the car world. But hey, the car hobby's cool. It's a fun place to work.
How many cars you got for sale over there right now?
Oh, when I left the other day, 271.
Wow. That's a lot of inventory.
Yeah. So we got room for about a little over 300.
And how many stores do y'all have?
6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's somebody we should have on. We should have Bob on, Bob and Donna who own it. Bob's a huge Mustang guy.
Yeah. I've done some cars for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got some cool stuff. And then, our director over there, Mike, Mike's got some really cool stuff. He just got himself a 66 Corvette.
Yeah, he likes the Camaros and Corvettes.
Oh, man, he's a Chevy guy.
Yeah.
He bleeds Chevrolet.
So we should have them both on at the same time and have
great. Ford
versus Chevrolet.
There you go.
Yeah, make them kill each other. Two coworkers. Yeah.
You know what? It's like they're not going to kill each other.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
It is funny though that they there is that. We all know Mike loves his Chevys, Bob loves his Fords, and there's all that rivalry with the guys that I work with. Right? We're all into their stuff. I mean, they because I'm kind of like the import guy, right? They always gig me on that. And then we've got a Mopar guy. We got a young guy, and Derek, he is so into Mopars. It's unbelievable.
Old Mopars or new Mopars?
Old Mopars. Yeah. Right. He's in his 20s, and he can rattle off stats like you wouldn't believe.
So the old Mopars are getting pretty expensive to buy. You're not going to buy them like you do 69 Camaros.
No. Right. They're cool. They're hard to understand and decode, right? At least for me. Maybe I could be more well versed in it. But they're cool. There's just so much stuff there, from the Daytonas and the Superbirds and that, right down to Cudas and that. Even think about if you. I think it's on one of Haggerty's collectibles is remember the Magnum, the SRT Magnum. Like that's like an affordable classic to get into now. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't ever think about those cars, but
they're relatively
entry level type car that you can get. I mean,
I like wagons. So.
Yeah, I do like wagons. My wife calls them an old man car, but I love wagons.
Yeah, she's correct if she's referring to me.
Yeah, and I had that wagon. I forget about that. What was that? That was a '66 Nova.
Yeah. I
hadn't had many cars, but I have bought and sold
a lot of cars now.
Yeah. My wife's going to find out about some of this watching this, but yeah, that was a neat little car.
That was when you had the Christmas tree on, right?
Yeah, we did a family photo shoot with that car.
Right. And were you were driving that when I was driving that 32 Ford, that Chop 32 Ford? We ran into each other.
Remember we met. Yeah, it was like at the park or somewhere. We just seen each other and we met and started talking. That was a good time.
Yeah.
That Nova. I forget about some of these cars. I like the patina cars. I mean, I think that's a fad that's sort of maybe on its way out. I don't know, maybe, but been in the business of cleaning cars and selling car care products. I'm supposed to drive something that's shiny like the Cadillac, and it's nice just to get in something that you don't have to worry about. Yeah, something you can take to the gas station or to the grocery store and not have to worry about people scratching. Yeah, I remember the '54 Chevrolet. We were parked on the front stretch at Auto Fair, and my best friend I grew up with, we've been friends since I was literally 8 years old, and his son and my son are about the same age, and they were taking Matchbox cars and they were going around and around the fenders on the car, and it's like I could never let that happen with the Cadillac. No. So yeah, I miss the old patinaed car. Yeah, that was good. So let's go back to this Dan Weldon stuff. Tell me more about that time. I mean, you were literally like, so you were a what do you call it? Like a rep? Like,
so our agency at the time that I worked for. So we did all the business development, all the execution, negotiated the sponsorships for Jim Beam, and they were big into motorsports. They had been in IndyCar before when it was Champ Car. As it transitioned to IndyCars when I came in, they had to deal with Dan. We had to deal with Robbie Gordon in NASCAR, and it was a ton of fun. Two great personalities, right? And that's what Jim Beam was about. Jim Beam is about social personalities. So Dan, right, super gregarious, right? You would think this little tiny British guy, but a American bourbon whiskey, right? How does that fit? But it was all about who he was, and he would make you feel like a champion. And Robbie would do the same thing on the NASCAR side, and Robbie Gordon. One of the most fun things with Robbie was we had this bus that was about the responsibility campaign, which was Drink Smart. So we would take our distributors around in the bus on, race weekends, and we're doing hospitality and all
and
that.
Drink together and drink smart. That's where you're going with this?
People would drink smart. Yeah, of course, nobody's drinking and driving, right? So we would get on the bus, and at some point in time in certain cities, Robbie was driving the bus, and the clients went crazy for it.
I bet.
Right? So, but that's who those guys were, are. That's who Robbie is. That's who Dan was. So we had a 2-seat Indy car that we would do the same thing. Dan would, give somebody a ride home in a 2-seat Indy car. He'd drive the Indy car on the streets, right? With, it's all PR and that stuff, but it was fun. That was motorsports then. We're talking 20 years ago. It was a little different than it is today. And I'm sure everybody out there who's in it is having a great time and having a bunch of fun, but we were having a ton of fun doing it.
Well, they had all the brands and alcohol and cigarettes and stuff. They don't have all those brands now, do they? Or they're coming back, I think.
Some of them are coming back. Jim Beam still, Jim Beam has a variety of brands that they own.
But didn't NASCAR take all the alcohols and everything out of? Or am I remembering that for some reason?
It's backwards. So when I had worked for Seagram, we had tried to get, this is in the late 90s, before I did another thing with another celebrity. Get tequila, right? We'll figure out that. We'll talk about that.
So we got to talk about that and drink tequila instead of Jim Beam?
Yeah, which is going to be hard for me. But anyway, so before we got into that world with Jimmy, we had tried to get into motorsports with Seagram 7 and Seagram's VO. And there were just a lot of things that were hindering us internally, corporately, externally. That kind of broke loose. Diageo, when Seagram's disbanded and Diageo bought it, Diageo actually brought Crown Royal into the motorsports arena. And that's the guy responsible for that, honestly. I like to think I did some of the legwork. The guy responsible for that was Zach Brown, who's the CEO of McLaren now. His agency pulled that off, which was really, really cool. So to see NASCAR then warm up to that as they were in the IROC series, and then they got into NASCAR, and then IndyCar had opened up a little bit before that and embraced the brands. It's really no different a drink's a drink, whether it's beer or wine.
No, they're not.
Or they are.
I've got 100 bottles of bourbon behind me.
Yes, you do.
And
but a drink's a drink.
And I don't like bourbon. Right. I haven't found a bourbon I like yet. So, yeah, if there's any.
6 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, and an ounce and a half alcohol have all the same.
They all taste the same?
Right. Well, they have all the same amount of alcohol in them. You might metabolize them a little differently, but essentially it's an equivalency thing.
I like scotch.
I know you
I can drink scotch.
Yeah.
And that's an acquired taste for most people.
Yeah.
And we built one of the biggest beer drinking car shows, and I hate beer.
Yeah.
I don't hate beer.
Right.
I
just don't prefer it.
Yeah, I can drink it, but it's not my go-to.
Right. Mine either. You're so busy on those nights, right? Like you need to be hydrating with water.
Yeah, that's true. We are working with a local brewery here to. Mm-hmm. They've found a beer that I do like. It's a light beer, and
I'm that same guy, right? Yeah. Sometimes I feel guilty about it.
Yeah. So we're working on making me like beer. So maybe we need to start a Rev Fast beer and find a beer that I like and sell it. And so
right. Hot Rod Red.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Remember that?
I remember the Hot Rod Red. We sold a lot of Hot Rod Red.
We sold a lot of Hot Rod Red until that ended. But whatever.
Yeah. That was like a low. What do you call it? Low APV or whatever. So whatever that saying is so people could drink and drive, leaving hot rods and hops.
Oh yeah.
That was the good old days. I remember we had one of our busiest nights. We had Keith. Keith, I think his last name's like Conavera or whatever. He had that 51 Kaiser.
Oh yeah.
He's been on Jay Leno.
Yes,
like that car's all over the place.
Yes.
And this car pulled up out front and we were full. We had no room inside.
I remember that.
And it was like, hey, park out here. And I didn't really look at the car and then find out later that we had one of the most iconic cars that's in our area. Yep. And it's parked out in general parking right next to a, Kia Soul or something. It was like, really? Keith's been, become a pretty good friend and customer and everything. It's like,
and there were 42 late model Mustangs and Chargers in there.
Yeah.
We were learning then.
Yeah. But I didn't even know what that car was. I mean, most people don't know what that car is when you see it. I mean, how many 51 Kaisers are out there? I don't know.
It's a completely oddball car.
We need to have Keith on and tell us that whole story.
Yeah.
I'm not Jay Leno, but I'd love to have that car. That's a beautiful car.
Yeah.
I tell you, the night that we had the 3 Ford GTs and we had Kurt Busch's Ford GT, the Monster Ford GT.
Yep. I remember that.
None of that was planned. It was just organic. Like everybody wanted to be there the same night. Like that was cool.
That was a really big night.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I forget about some of those nights. We did so many things.
We're so caught up in the execution of it all.
I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces people don't see and cleaning up cups for the next 2 days. But we raised a lot of money for different charities.
Well, you did the whole hurricane relief thing a couple years ago.
Yeah, we did the big hurricane in Florida, did a food drive and carried all that stuff down there. We did the flood in South Carolina and, took stuff down there. That was a neat one. Probably my most memorable was the Warrior Jace. Oh, that was a hard night. That changed the way I look at events. It really did. That changed everything for me for why we do what we do. I don't know. I mean, but there was I think it was like $4,500 or $4,800 raised that night for them. And they were literally like a month after losing Jace. And they stood up and told that story, and how in the world they stood in front of all those car people and was like, told that. I have no idea.
They were stronger than everybody else that night.
Yeah. But I think that was a big shift in why we do what we do. And if we're going to bring these people together, we need to do it for
a reason.
Yes. I mean, we have the ability of bringing all these people together. Let's do it
I think that's what brought us together, right? We have great friendship, right? Obviously, you were there when I thought I was having my heart attack. I was in the hospital.
Yes. I was also on the other end of when you tried to break into my shop and steal all my product, but.
Well, yeah. Well, that was a hoax. But, although thank God I didn't get arrested. I'm sure that'll show up in a true crime podcast somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But just all the folks that we've known and met and connected with over the years, if you think about it, right? Some good, some bad, but mostly all good people.
Yeah. I mean, there's two things that have always brought people together. It's alcohol and cars.
Well, yeah.
And now we have both.
Right.
So that's what RevFast is hopefully going to be, is sit and talk to car people like yourself and drink bourbon and whiskey and scotch, wine. If they're not alcohol drinkers, we could drink coffee, but sit and sip on something and talk about cars. Every car's got a story.
Every car's got a story. Every person's got a story, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I hear it every day. So it's, whether it's a memory from a kid, it's how you grew up, think about how you ended up being a Ford guy or a Chevy guy, I know exactly why I became an import guy. My whole family is Ford guys, and my mom wanted an Audi in 1973. And we went to the car show, and my dad was like, oh my God, we're going to get rid of, that 69 LTD that we had talked about, the big block and all that stuff. Right. And Mom wanted a 73 Audi 100 LS. Terrible automobile. However.
Yeah. Audis wasn't popular and great until the last, I don't know, 5 years.
Yeah. Well, 10 years, decade. Yes. But in the 70s, they were sketchy. Cool. Sketchy. Neat features, inboard brakes, all this kind of stuff. But it was Porsche Audi back then. And right in that auto show in Rochester, New York, right next to it was, and I know the color because I'm a Porsche geek, was a Gemini blue 1973 Porsche 911S. And I'm like, ching, every hot rod thought went out of my head at that point in time. And I'm like, that's cool. I love hot rods. I love 32 Fords. I love that kind of stuff. But like that 911 vibe for me is just so strong.
So you like the small cars, small hot rods, small sports cars.
I'm not a big guy.
I like big cars.
Yes, you do.
I need like
cars.
Gold chains, and I like the big.
I like Revival.
Yeah, big cars.
I remember when we picked up Revival from, what was that, a transmissioner shop or something?
We were running coming back. What was that? That was like on the other side of Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to see what that car would do. That was the first time I really stretched its legs and see what that old car.
You did.
Yeah.
I was driving that old pickup, or not old, that old Suburban I had, Betsy.
Yeah. So
OBS Suburbans now are worth money. I sold the thing for $3,500.
Yeah, it was your work truck.
My work
it's what you carried your dog around in. Yeah, now it's worth something. Hey, before we end this, I want to talk about this book that you did, because when I first met you, you had just got back with Tom in the, we've done tons of stuff with Tom Cotter. I love Tom. Tom has been a great customer and good friend, and he used to do this car show in his backyard or front yard.
The Woody Party.
Yes, that, I've modeled a lot of what I do with these car shows after what I learned from him. Yeah. So I owe a lot to Tom.
He's a good guy.
I could tell some stories of things that's happened with Tom's cars that he cussed me out one time, but yeah, it's good that we're still
deserved too.
Yeah, may have wrecked one of his cars. But tell me about your. So you went on that ride, the Barn Find ride, right? And the book that he did, right?
The very first Barn Find road trip. Yeah. And then I was part of, but had to leave early, the Route 66 one.
Oh, okay.
So the very first one came out of an idea that Tom had invited me to go up to Asheville. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, Park something or other. It was a wonderful little restaurant, to meet some of his car guy buddies up there, and vintage racing guys. And guys, I knew a couple of them. And he's like, let's make it a day. And we left from a little bagel shop here in Cornelius and took all back roads just to see how many old cars we could find. And we found dozens of them on literally like this 4 or 5 hour drive up to Asheville. And we came back on the highway and we were talking, and he was like, oh, maybe I should pitch this to my publisher or whatever. Boom, boom, boom. And I didn't really give it a second thought, but cool. Awesome. And then that fall, he's like, can you take a couple of weeks off? We're going to do book Barn Find road trip, and we're going to go from Charlotte and wander our way up on back roads. We're going to get out of North Carolina, wander our way up on back roads, and end up at the Hershey swap meet. And we did, and found hundreds of cars. And
I still have that book up front, so it's pretty cool because it shows the book, like the story of where y'all went, but it also shows which cars are still for sale, which ones
that's the whole thing.
Aren't for sale.
Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, that's pretty cool to look at, because you could still buy some of them as as that book came out. But
yeah. And then he's done some, I was on the one before with him and for Route 66, but I had to bail out on that for some family business. But yeah, he's the coolest, now that turned into the Barn Find Hunter, his deal.
The coolest thing I remember is probably one of the most favorite stories I have of the car world. I mean, I've done some really neat cars and rode in some very high-end fancy cars and celebrity cars and race car driver stuff, but I've cleaned up his Cobra.
Oh yeah.
And it was right before his Woody party, and he couldn't come pick it up that morning. He said, "Can you just bring it in?
What?
Bring it to his show." So here
you drove the Cobra.
I drove his his original Cobra alone from my shop. Yeah.
Now I drove that Cobra with him in the right-hand seat when we went up to McPherson College. You're probably the only person that's driven that.
You think so?
I don't know.
Wow.
We have to ask Tom.
I don't know. That's a good question. But, driving up to his house and everybody, I mean, that car's the star of the show anyway. Everybody knows him in that car.
What car's got such a wonderful history?
And I don't know what the thing's worth. I mean, I guess it's $1 million car if it need to be. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. It's Tom's car. So, cool. It's Tom. That car is Tom.
Right. And so here, part of me is worried about driving this high dollar car across town. But when I pulled up, all of a sudden, people's like, "Who are you and why are you driving Tom's car?" Well, I cleaned it up.
Right.
So, yeah, it introduced me to a lot of people that day. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and we had the bottles of waterless wash on the counter, on the tables.
Yeah.
That was a fun day.
Yeah. I missed the Woody party.
That's probably one of my most iconic cars that I've got to drive. One of the most memorable. That was a cool one. I mean,
one of my favorite cars is the Ferrari Daytona.
That's a high dollar one.
Yeah, 365 GTB.
Yeah. And
I had the opportunity to drive two of them in my life and sold one of them when I was working, for FCI. That car was just magical to me, right? Like transformed me. Yeah, right. There's certain cars that'll just do that. Yeah. And there's cars there's inexpensive cars that do that for people. There's certain low buck things that, my daily beater. I love that stupid thing, the toaster, that Honda Element, right? Does the same thing. That car brings me joy. And it was $1,200, right? So it's like a passion. What I love about that car is the fact that it's so cheap and it owes me nothing and it's great. What I love about the Mercedes is it's so fast. What I love about the Daytona is those things were so iconic, right? It's emotion. Yeah. Well, and whatever it is for different people. I mean, some people get that same feeling out of a Miata and some get it out of a Maserati, but you know, at the end of the day, everybody has a different passion for different stuff. Some people do it on two wheels. Some do it on watercraft. I mean, we've got some friends here in town because we're right close to the lake that's got the big, powerful, big motor boats and stuff. That'd be a lot of fun. So. I have two broken wrists, one Harley, one Ducati. Well, we need to do this again. Absolutely. Don't need to. We will. Yeah, and thanks for bringing me a bottle of Jim Beam. I didn't have a bottle of Jim Beam here, so there you go. Now you got one. Yeah, and a great story behind it. And a great story. Yeah, that's awesome. So I think we need to talk about all this stuff more. Absolutely. I want to hear about your. So is it tequila? Is that the next? That's a story you can't tell me. We got to talk about tequila. That's another. There's a whole bunch of stories I can't tell you about, but that's one we can talk about. And another. Yeah. Well, you know all my skeletons, bro. Cheers. Thanks for coming by Rev Fast. We'll see you at Hot Rods and Hops on February 16th, our first one. We're going back to doing them every month. All right. Third Friday of every month this year. I'll be there. Yeah. Look forward to seeing you. Right. Rev Fast, man. All right. Thank you, brother.